a good example of where negative liberty should not be permitted is highly addictive drugs. I think that people should not have the freedom to get hooked on heroin.
No,
They simply shouldn't have the freedom to do that. And if we make the penalties draconian enough, they won't seek it out.
I had to selectively edit those clips for the sake of time, but just so no one can claim I'm being dishonest, I'll clarify Greg's position now. Real freedom means living in a society, preferably built around Aristotelian principles, where your ability to self-actualize and foster the best parts of yourself are maximized with and because of the help of state intervention. Because how free are you really when given easy access to so many addictive hindrances? Look around the world. Obesity is at an all-time high. Record numbers of drunk driving fatalities, liver disease, heroin overdoses, diabetes, an epidemic of pornography dependence. Having a state that says these behaviors are permissible is bad for society. Period. The very notion of, quote, freeing individuals up to do whatever they want is not actually free. In fact, it forces you to make life-altering mistakes that you otherwise would be prevented from making had the option been stripped from you entirely. A free society where people can do whatever they want leads to degeneracy. It's degenerate because humans, if left completely alone, are irrational, prone to bad habits, prone to obesity, to hedonistic drug use or drug addiction, and a host of other negative behaviors that don't merely harm the individual, but the society at large. Greg is arguing for a society that restricts certain behaviors he and those who agree with him would likely call degenerate. His claim is not, I want to restrict gambling, porn, corn syrup, and alcohol because I'm a mean guy. His claim is that we need to ban these behaviors because once banned, the hurdles and hindrances, of which there are plenty that these behaviors often create for us, prevent us from discovering our true nature, which is that of self-actualization and the collective preservation of our people. I have some areas of disagreement with Greg. Let me begin with an anecdotal, then I'll pivot to more reliable rebukes. However, at the heart of this anecdote, I feel, is a universal concept of overcoming tribulation and receiving redemption. So I am a drug addict, or was, depending on your definition, given that I now have over a year and a half sober from drugs and alcohol. I live in a state where, quote, street drugs are illegal and deterred by the state. This deterrent put me in jail 7 times. I've been arrested for multiple possessions of narcotics, resisting arrest, DUI, and public intoxication. Since I was 17, I have tried 6 times with the help of 6 different treatment centers to get sober. And toward the latter half of my addiction, when it was getting the worst, with the exception of marijuana, all the drugs I did were prescribed to me legally by a convenient psychiatrist who gave me whatever I wanted, which was Xanax, Somas, and Adderall. When I did run out, however, I would find people who had it on the street, but we'll get to that later. I would consume a cocktail of these pills in conjunction with alcohol and marijuana, sometimes staying up for days, and in the case of my most recent relapse, lost 30 pounds in 3.5 months. The deterrence from the state of Texas in regards to me buying marijuana did nothing, time and time again, to prevent me from buying it on the street. And I fucking loathed jail. It is hard to find a situation more nightmarish than sitting alone, withdrawing from Xanax in an 8x8 with no windows, no mattress, and just one steel bench next to a toilet. And just like all my relapses, I lost my job. I lost the trust of my mom and my dad and my sister. I pawned my music equipment and other valuables until I was out of drugs, money, and just completely fucked. And this is something I would like to ask Greg. Is it more rewarding or even spiritual to be given the opportunity to fail so that the opportunity to succeed can occur by its own volition? This is the foundation of all spiritual experiences. If we simply remove desirable things from society, we remove the growth of that which is received when we choose not to do it. When we get beat down so badly, then come out the other side redeemed. It's my view that personal choice and being granted the freedom to become a monster, but to do otherwise, is the cornerstone for true self-actualization.
It is indeed spiritual to have the ability to overcome all tribulations by our own volition, to be given an opportunity to fail so that the success feels more rewarding, to become triumphant against basal human nature. It is but not spiritual, to make an exclusive case for hedonistic substances. If indeed it was good to be able to make a choice of laws, why should we have traffic laws? Wouldn't it be more rewarding or spiritual to welcome all the barriers and shoddy drivers to reach office in time? Why restrict people to only one direction, to only a range of speed? Can we as humans overcome our base instinct of driving poorly on roads? Isn't it insulting to say that we can't and we need laws for it? We all live in authoritarian states. The only difference is that more people love porn more than they love rash driving. So it is easier to forget that putting a gun on someone's head to make him stop when he sees an electromagnetic wave of a specific frequency range coming off a special pole is doing the same thing, just because there is not enough protest.
And I argue that in some instances, a more authoritarian society that removes these desirable things from its population will actually create weaker people.
Citation needed. An authoritarian state can only effectively ban something if people have the courage of leaving it. While the defenders of porn in the comment section of the video claim that Greg is weak as he needs a paternalistic government to control his action, it may be that he is at least as strong to be willing to take risk of being jailed for giving into temptation. But indeed it is stronger to resist temptation and Greg is the weaker one. Why is the stronger audience afraid of penalty, unless it is afraid of being caught in the action?
And regardless, so many of them would attain the items through black markets. And banning certain behaviors from a society does not ban the desire to do it.
Yes, and this is why. An authoritarian state can only effectively ban something if people have the courage of leaving it. But black markets cannot be vanquished completely. Some people will get what they want one way or other. That is almost a truism.
And it's this lower nature we have to come to grips with in our own way. Imagine if Greg Johnson was in charge of the United States and he banned pornography completely with the use of some new technology that made it impossible to find it on the internet or even see it on iPhones or desktops. You would have a very large male population whose obsessive or compulsive sexual desires are still there. Nothing has been fixed on the inside, and the remaining obsession will only manifest itself in different ways. The vices that surround us are a symptom of a much bigger problem we need to address as humans. But the need to escape is the issue, not the items we use to escape. It's my job to develop a life I don't need to escape from, and that can be very hard, but it's possible.
There has been a time when internet porn was not even invented, and other visual means were not as easily accessible. The very fact that people believe that everyone will go crazy if internet porn is banned shows that they know that all are addicted. It suggests how we are weaker as compared to older generations.
And even beyond that, a lot of people would just be totally pissed or generally upset if you just got rid of their pornography. Now, one could argue that even if we have a lot of individuals who are constantly improving themselves in this way, and even if I'm right that this form of self-actualization is better than the state-enforced kind that Greg is putting forward, some would say the larger society is still taking a massive hit by having McDonald's at every corner, corn syrup and artificial sugars in the majority of our foods, easy access to porn, cigarettes at every corner, and the list just goes on and on and on. But even if I say fuck all that I just said, I think authoritarians tend to only focus on the addicts or extreme cases. They don't put their focus on the majority who are able to drink responsibly and occasionally, who can play a video game and easily put it down to do something more productive, who might use marijuana once a month, who use porn every now and then, or who have a normal relationship with food. These are millions upon millions of people whose responsible use would be shut down for the actions of the irresponsible. And these bans on basic, personal, and in most cases private behaviors would obviously cause resentment, because responsible users would feel justified, as they should, knowing their use was not hurting themselves or anyone else. Why should John Doe not be free to drink a beer because of how beer negatively affects me?
For the same reason that John Doe has to follow traffic rules, though he can maneuver his car even in disorderly environment, or that John Doe has to observe speed limits even though he can drive twice as fast as Mouthy Buddha responsibly.
Outright bans like these could also lead to swaths of the population fleeing to other countries that value personal liberty, places like Switzerland or even Portugal, where you're free to use whatever drug you want.
Of course, does Mouthy Buddha know that he could have had sex with animals legally in Sweden some time ago.
But I'm not saying that we should legalize all drugs in America, or that certain deterrents for some personal choices should never exist. I'm saying that if I only had two options for a society, either ban things entirely that could potentially be harmful, or allow people to pursue them knowing the given dangers, I would opt for the latter. Give me temptation served up on a silver platter, and give me the right to say no.
Which is not exactly what he believes in, because he just advocated for deterrence and showed he does not advocate legalization of all harmful substances. Buddha's video exactly shows why societies are doomed to fail. All societies accept some degeneracy and ban and regulate others. But once one is accepted, it becomes almost impossible to reverse that state, though it was present before, though there is less resistance against more degeneration. No society chooses freedom, for if it did, we won't be legalizing things step by step. All societies choose that degeneration, which becomes normalized. Greg is woke on that, and Mouthy Buddha chooses not to see it. Or if he did, his opposition against those that are against public nudity, public sex, and drugs of the worst kind would be as forthcoming as the criticism of authoritarianism. But that's not what he has been normalized to. That is still far away.